Unlike Dan's presentation at the start, I haven't got any intro slides, but just quickly, so my name's Pete. I'm the Organic Director at Impression. So I oversee our SEO department, digital PR, and our CRO department. But yeah, surely after we can catch up and talk more about that. Quite fitting. So in terms of what I won't be talking about, thankfully, I think the vibe is thankfully, won't be talking about AI, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Bard, or Bing AI. Equally, I won't be talking about the Yandex leak, and to some degree, though there was more chatter around this near the end of last year, the start of this year, I won't be talking about the helpful content update or the link spam update. So sigh of relief maybe, or you gutted, I don't know. But what I will be talking about is just good old-fashioned SEO strategy. And certainly some of the things that are incorporated within all that stuff that's been going on can certainly be applied to this. And particularly what I will be talking about is what to consider when you're specifically tasked with market leadership as an objective. So from your stakeholders, you're tasked with the idea of market leadership. So why am I interested in this? And to set the scene, I want to share with you a story. And this is something that happened some point last year, where I was having a pre-pitch briefing call with a new business prospect. And just to illustrate what occurred, I've kind of reiterated the conversation. So it started with me going, "All right." And they were like, "Yeah, not too bad, thanks. You?" So yeah, not too bad, thanks. So first question, so what do you actually want to achieve through SEO, right? What's your objective? And straight out the gate, the client specifically said, we want to become market leaders in X topic. So what that topic was doesn't really matter to the essence of this, but they were out the gate fixated on this idea of market leadership. So at the time, I was like, nice, that's really cool. And it really is, it's a fairly typical request, and what I've found at Impression and with the clients and businesses that we work with, that type of request typically comes from two camps, right? So either those who are disrupting, so those who perhaps want to make an impact in the industry by making waves, and or those who have private equity funding, right? So those with aggressive targets from their stakeholders, and they need to show a sizable and relatively quick return to their investors. So it's a fairly typical request. But then after I left the call, and I had everything I needed to assemble the pitch, after I left the call, I was like, or I just started thinking, I was just there in front of my laptop. I was like, well, what does it actually mean to be market leading within SEO, right? So is it, I don't know, is it one thing? Is it multiple things? If it is one thing, what is that thing? If it's multiple things, what are those things? So I started on this journey of discovery, on this journey of research. And I first just started quite simply just by looking into, just searching for it, like searching for the idea of market leadership. And these were some typical business definitions that I came across. So from, say, business publications or general marketing publications. So we've got 4 definitions here, so let's look into these. So number 1, the company selling the largest quantity of a particular product. Similarly, the next definition, so benefits from the largest fraction of total sales in a given market. So those two there, relatively similar in terms of what they're looking at. We're looking at sales, right? The next two, so a company with the largest market share in an industry. Okay, that's interesting. And then the fourth one, outperforms the competition in metrics that measure business success. So 4 definitions here, both across each row, kind of quite related. So let's unpack those. So the first two, looking at sales of largest quantity, largest fraction of sales. So in SEO, we can approximate that, perhaps based on ranking position, CTR. From there, we can overlay and assume an average conversion rate. That's it's not overly accessible at scale, nor is it that reliable. The last two, perhaps it's more aligned to what we're used to, right? But once I unpack the key components of those two definitions, i.e. largest market share and metrics that measure business success, what's actually comprised within market share, and what are these metrics that measure business success? So let's look into these one by one. So largest market share, is that out-of-the-box organic visibility, perhaps something that we're used to from the likes of Systrix or other tool providers such as search metrics. Problem with this, out of the box, it's not correctly calibrated to consider different keyword segments, right? So brand, non-brand, search intent. Once you input your domain, your client's domain, your business domain, and then you overlay the data with competitors, how it's calibrated between brand and non-brand and search intent isn't quite that identifiable, and it's certainly not something within your control. In terms of metrics that measure business success, are those head terms perhaps? So looking at typically like those short tail terms, highly competitive, highly lucrative. Are they those? Is that like an indicator of market leadership? Are these the metrics that measure business success through SEO? I feel like they feel somewhat reductive. There's lots of like contributing factors to securing visibility for head terms. You may also, and critically, you may also be waiting a long time to showcase what good looks like. So from there, I've done my research, I've done some like analysis, just thinking about it. So I started to derive some conclusions. So for SEO, there's not really one overall measure to communicate market leadership. The reality is, market leadership is comprised of several different components. Looking further into it and concluding further, if we break down all those components involved, this actually gives you a wider measurement plan to work with and work towards, and more opportunities to showcase success, more opportunities to showcase what good looks like. And then it also allows you to visualize market leadership for SEO within the truest sense of the term, right? So it calls to the complexity of SEO, how much is involved within it, and like how multifaceted it is. By breaking down the components, we can visualize that. And then thirdly, so monitoring your pursuit to market leadership will be hinged on, say, third-party comparative data. So looking at the likes of perhaps SEO Monitor, Ahrefs, SEMrush, Systrix, these are the tools we typically use in-house. We do at Impression, no doubt many of you use the same as well. So it will be hinged on third-party comparative data because we're looking at data within a market. But that's not to say, of course, this is a really key caveat to this. It's not to say that first-party data isn't useful. And it's not something where you're ignoring your own site's growth. You still need that to understand how you're performing in the moment, to understand how you're performing over time, to ensure you are building an ROI. So to be absolutely clear, this stuff is running like alongside your first-party data. So with everything, I then went away and established a market leadership framework. And this is actually something that we pitched to that client that out the gate wanted to achieve market leadership. And this is what it looks like. So five components to it, what I've coined as strategic drivers. So from left to right, we have content coverage, we have page experience, backlink coverage, and then also brand, and then finally reputation. So you'll notice that these are color-coded, and there's a reason for that, because I think it's important to indicate the things that SEOs can influence, the things in our control, and then the things that are difficult for SEOs to influence. So the stuff on the left, things that we're used to, the content, page experience, the backlink coverage, those are things that we can influence within our teams. And the brand and the reputation, that's stuff that's difficult for us to influence, but it's certainly something we need to be monitoring. So this harks to, so looking at like a race model, the stuff on the left is typically what SEO teams will be responsible for, what you'll be accountable, what you'll be responsible for, what you'll be accountable for. And then the two components on the right, brand and reputation, We'll talk more about this later, but certainly brand is something that you can be consulted on within your arsenal of the tools and the data that you have. And then reputation is something you should certainly be informed about, which we'll talk about later when we speak around its importance around EEAT. So within that, once we unpack the strategic drivers, there are several KPIs and things that we can measure. In the interest of time, or obviously there's a lot here, I won't have the chance to go into everything. We'll be here forever. But certainly want to look into these five strategic drivers. So let's look into this first one on the theme of things that SEOs can influence. So we're looking at content coverage. So really, within content coverage, there's four considerations to bear in mind, right? So firstly, from left to right, we've got segmenting your keyword targeting strategy to maximize success. We have understanding what's competitive content within your content strategy and what's unique content, and we'll talk about that further shortly. We then also have your content depth according to EEAT, and then finally coverage according to different organic sources. So a few of the panelists tonight were talking about, and even Dan was talking about the idea of video, TikTok SEO, YouTube SEO, all that stuff within that. For the interest of time, I'll be talking about the first two. So I won't be talking about content depth according to EAT. I think that as a subject has been covered quite in depth within the industry, and it's kind of a massive topic within its own right. Similarly, the same with coverage across different organic sources, right? The idea of YouTube SEO, TikTok SEO, Amazon SEO, perhaps all these different sources. There's a lot there. So I'll just be focusing for the purpose of this on these first two. So looking at the first one, keyword segmentation. So as a market leader, it follows that market leaders should be leveraging kind of all opportunities that are available across perhaps different user journeys or user behaviors. And then what I feel like is segmenting and approaching content like this allows you to demonstrate why you are a market leader, right? And critically, it gives you opportunities to showcase success through organic visibility. So let's look at perhaps a user behavior, so looking at search intent. This report is a really useful one that we can quickly access through SEMrush's dashboard. And we can see here across the four types of search intent with this client, kind of how they're comparing across different search intent. So in terms of informational, that's certainly where a large part of their organic profile sits. But perhaps there's more work to do, not so much in navigational, we'll leave that for the time being because that's more related to brand. But certainly within commercial and transactional, we can see that we need more investment there, we need more resource there to build out that coverage. And it'll be from there we can overlay kind of competitors to see how they're performing, but it's segmenting your content strategy like this to see how you're performing. Similarly, we can use the AIDA model, so looking at awareness, interest, desire, and action, segmenting your content strategy in this way according to, so wherever you're targeting, identifying where it falls within the conversion journey, allows you to visualize where you're at according to those 4 points, right? So earlier last year, I partnered with SEO Monitor and produced some video content, and I've linked to it here, so presumably the slides will be available after. But I talk about how you can use SEO Monitor to segment your keyword targeting profile according to the AIDA model. But it's really something that can be extended across any really rank tracking platform. But this is kind of what it looks like within the UI of SEO Monitor. So you can see here I've got the folder at the top, and then the groups kind of break down across awareness, interest, desire, and action. What's really useful about this is I have the organic visibility immediately there and visible. So you can see for this particular client, because we're looking at organic visibility inherently across the marketplace, we can see we're really market leading from an action perspective. So looking at those conversion-based key terms, but there's certainly more work to do across awareness, interest, and desire. So that's really covering the idea of the keyword segmentation. Looking at competitive versus unique content. So the competitive content, I feel that's something where, of course, that's something we're used to. That's using your content keyword gap analysis. And here, when we're wanting to achieve market leadership, that bit's critical to understand almost what the entry-level requirement is, right? So if your competitors are doing it and you want to be market leading, it follows that you need to meet them there to at least be competitive with them. I feel like within SEO, we spend a lot of time within this sector, but perhaps one thing that we overlook is unique content, and especially if we're approaching market leadership, it's critical to be offering a unique proposition to your audience. And you can do that through unique content, right? So this is a really interesting case where we're working with a travel client, and they actually spend a lot of time identifying unique content. And within this portfolio of keywords, we can see how it's really an untapped area across their competitive, across their landscape, right, across their vertical. For this segment, they've got close to 40% visibility across desktop and mobile, and it's not something that's being actioned or being looked at by their competition, and it gives them that competitive edge. So how did they achieve this? So as mentioned, as a travel client, and what we identified was their branding team had a great understanding of their audience personas. So we worked with them to unlock that, right? And we use this idea of circles of focus, which is something we adopt internally, something we've written about if you want to check out the blog on that. But it's identifying that the core topic in this context would be around travel, but it's looking at secondary and tertiary concepts and focus areas, and looking almost starting to think tangentially. So here we were looking at topics within well-being, within relationships, within work-life balance, all things that are tangentially related to this idea of travel, and certainly absolutely related to the audience and who they're looking to target. So that's how they identified their unique content. So that's the content coverage aspect of it. So moving on to page experience. This part's really awkward because I didn't actually realise Siteboard were going to be here. I didn't realise Patrick was going to be here, but we will press on and we'll sort that bit after. So on page experience, it sits under the wider umbrella of technical SEO, right? So let's quickly discuss that. And it was a question that I posed myself, and it was a question I want to pose to the audience rhetorically. It's this idea of how useful is it to measure or to approach technical SEO with a market leading mindset, right? After all, technical SEO is something that's unique to your site. Looking how pages are linked together, looking at the information architecture, looking at the crawl depth. It's all stuff that's quite unique. But nevertheless, if there is something, and this is the awkward part, if this is something you wanted to benchmark and use comparative data against, Luma recently launched this health score. It gives you a great benchmark of how the technical SEO, performance of your site is compared to. You can tag it up within the configuration and within the wizard as you're setting up a profile, setting up a campaign. You can tag it up according to the vertical, and you can see, according to other sites within their database, how it performs. But page experience within this kind of area of technical SEO, there's definitely useful measures here when we're trying to ascertain market leadership. Perhaps not so much on the HTTPS side, perhaps not so much on the mobile friendliness side, but certainly when we're looking at Core Web Vitals. And then this is a really neat tool, so Crux Compare. If you wanted to understand how landing pages on your site are performing according to the competition, to understand how market leading perhaps you are, it's a really simple UI where you just input the URLs, your own URLs, your competitor URLs, and you can understand kind of how you're performing, and that can be a good benchmark for you to understand where you need to focus your efforts. But within page experience, and within the context of market leadership, I feel like there's ways we can go much further with page experience. And I feel like overall this is quite an untapped area still within SEO, and it's this idea of combining it with CRO. Because it stands to reason that if you want to pursue market leadership, you have to have like cutting edge user experience, right? And I don't think there's, and certainly be in tune with your audience and the audience data. And I believe there's no better way of doing that than combining your efforts with a CRO team. So if you want to know more around like the benefits, certainly the strategic benefits of combining SEO with CRO, I've written a blog about that on the site, but this is just one example. So this is a tool called Visual Ping. See it as if SEO has Little Warden, CRO has Visual Ping. So it's an alerting and monitoring piece of software. It allows you to input your competitors and certain key landing pages across their site. And when say a piece of their HTML changes, perhaps when they introduce new content, new functionality, new modules, you can get alerted and you'll get pinged by that. So you can stay kind of at the forefront of what your vertical is doing, what the marketplace is doing, to ensure that you're up to speed with that, right, and that you are competitive. So it's a really useful tool that I recommend you check out. So moving on to backlink coverage. So I want to be slightly unorthodox here and communicate the point how common backlink comparisons, such as these ones here, where we're looking at domain rating, if we're working with Ahrefs or domain authority with Moz, we're looking at referring domains and comparing backlinks. These types of comparisons, from a market leadership point of view, and certainly I think from really any point of view, when you're looking at any type of objective, it's a super noisy space, right? Depending on your vertical, depending on your site, the discrepancies are often huge. So it's inherently quite difficult to plug the gap. These types of comparisons as well also assume that all backlinks are created equal, and that's not, as we know, like that's not really the case. The reality is that there's only ever a subset of your backlink profile that's going to be contributing to ranking potential. So really here it's about focusing on the links that move the needle instead and acquiring those. So how we do this internally is still looking at domain rating, but overlaying domain traffic, taking into account relevancy as well. And it's these types of links that we want to acquire, focusing less on these big numbers and focusing on what's attainable. And similar to content coverage, it's the same idea of understanding that coverage that your competitor subset has, almost to understand the entry level requirement, and then further securing unique coverage that is unique to you and gives you that edge. This is something, this type of approach, this type of methodology is something that we adopt in-house. This is so organic visibility from a client of ours overlaying their market, and the green pins there align with when campaigns were finished, when links were built. And this was a key strategic driver within them, to secure market leadership. So we've covered three things there: content coverage, page experience, and backlink coverage. And as I mentioned before, those are the things that SEOs can influence. Those are the things that we're responsible for and accountable for. So now we're going to move on to the sections that are difficult for SEOs to influence, but certainly what we want to consult on and what we want to stay informed on. So looking at brand first. So here standing up here as an SEO, talking about branded search. Obviously, we're used to talking about non-brand search. So why should we care about branded search? So the reality is SEOs can help to drive brand awareness. Perhaps there's some informational queries that we want to leverage that we can use as part of our content strategies to answer queries about the brand from the audience. Perhaps there's instances where competitors are outranking you for your brand. And after all, search is inherently a discovery channel as well, so it can help drive brand awareness. But it's not something that SEOs can own by themselves. It's really like an integrated endeavor to influence, right? But there are certainly strategic benefits to at least staying informed of branded search performance. Firstly, as an example, with branded search, it can be used to safeguard your organic presence, right, from the fluctuations that occur within non-brands. So from, say, Google algorithm updates, it can safeguard that. This is an example that I think it was Rand Fishkin who first talked about this, using the example of Etsy. So Etsy as a brand term is huge. Looking at something that they offer, phone cases, something that they rank for, though it is still a highly searched for term, highly searched for topic, it doesn't skim the surface in terms of the power of the Etsy brand. So anything that happens within phone cases or any other type of non-branded topic, it's not really gonna, their brand is so strong that it's almost seemingly insignificant. But most importantly, I feel like this is something we as an industry can be talking more about. And this is based on a study that Tom Capper did as part of Moz, just looking at the correlation between organic visibility and brand. This was a study he did in 2021. I believe he started it in 2017. I think that's, the latest one's 2021. I don't know if there's any plans for later studies, but it certainly would be interesting to see. But really the conclusion from this was that the demand for your brand is at least a good predictor of rankings as domain authority is, right? So it's a really good indicator for ranking potential. So in terms of calculating your brand search and how that compares within your sector, within your vertical, something that we use internally is share of search. This is something that the SEO team use, similarly our strategy team use as well. So here you could use as a metric search volume, or similarly you could use trend scores from Google Trends, but it's understanding your brand search and then dividing that by the brand search within your market. And from there you'll get a percentage output, and you can see kind of where you stack within the marketplace, and then you can track that over time. And that's, I think, how you can consult on this aspect of the market leadership puzzle. But as I mentioned, it's certainly a concerted effort across other marketing teams as well. So moving on to reputation, this is more something to be informed by. And again, create the idea of creating a reputable brand. So why is this important? It really comes down to the notion of EEAT, right? And just looking at the search quality rater guidelines and the need for how important the reputation of your site is to ensure you are communicating experience, expertise, authority, and trust. I'm happy I got that one because that extra E throws me. But yeah, that's why, in accordance to this, that's why it's an important notion within the market leadership puzzle. This was a really interesting case when we started working with a brand within fintech, within the SaaS space. So it was inherently related to Your Money, Your Life. And when we started working with them, something that we identified was with their Trustpilot scores. You can see there on the left. So back in 2020, it was quite a poor score of 2.5 stars. It's not something, as I say, we can directly influence, but certainly it's something that we want to stay informed about. And our point of contact is an SEO himself. It was something he was concerned about as well because of the idea of EEAT. And it's something between us that we both wanted to stay informed about. But then lo and behold, over time, it's something that different marketing teams, their product teams were really focusing on. And there was an effort there to increase that in 3 years after, as you can see. So rounding up with some closing thoughts and some summaries. So yeah, this is the market leadership framework that we just went through. So looking at content coverage, page experience, backlink coverage, and then brand and reputation. So to me, they're the five components of achieving market leadership. And this is the framework that you can use to book it and structure your work to ensure you are on track. There is a final note there around time. Obviously, the notion of achieving market leadership is, depending on your site, depending on your business, is inherently a difficult task. I've just been through kind of the components of it, seemingly making it sound quite easy, but it is inherently difficult, right? And it requires time, it requires resource. So this is an example of a client. It's a legacy client of ours. I think that we've worked for them for around 7 years or so. It's actually only been within the past 3 years that we've entered this race for market leadership. And even then, though we were taking into account the similar to the market leadership framework, it's not a binary thing, right, where it's kind of completed. There are some things we're doing well. There's some things we've encouraged over time. So good presence across their commercial terms, strong reputation, and like EEAT signals. Competitive backlink profile, it's certainly improved since when we started working with them, but there's still some parts that are preventing us from being kind of true market leaders. One major one, for example, is lacking some of the content coverage, specifically across the bottom of the funnel, looking at some of their products that they can't offer, that their competitors offer, and that's the thing that's actually giving them the edge. And that is me for the evening. Thank you very much.